Hi, I'm Kelsey. I decided I wanted to share my not so great introduction to the Good Kush, which, from what I've read and everything back then, I found out not a lot of people have the greatest time with it. Didn't know that before I took it, okay? Um, yeah, it's usually a funny story. People like to hear it. I'll tell it. I laugh at it now. It's funny. It wasn't funny then, but yeah, it's a funny story. So let me go back. This is 2017. I'm 19. Throughout high school, I was Miss Goody Two Shoes. I didn't touch any substances like that, barely alcohol, because there's personal reasons for that. But yeah, basically, I didn't touch any of it. I didn't even know much about weed at all. So, but at 19, I just felt like try something. I want to venture out of my comfort zone. So I'm like, I'm gonna give it a go. And my friend Jamie, she is like the opposite of me. At the time, well, she still is kind of. I've gotten a little bit better with socializing, but she loved to go to parties, and she's like, I'm going to party at Gainesville, which is where the University of Florida is. Parties are crazy. And she's like, I'm going to get us some. So she gets back. We're in the guest bedroom. I remember we went to the store and got a bunch of snacks. Because I was like, all I knew is I'm expecting to be giggly with my best friend, watching stupid videos, getting hungry, getting the munchies, eating, it just being a great time. So I'm sitting there, we're trying to be quiet because my dad at the time was sleeping in the living room and my grandparents were on the other side of the house sleeping in their bedroom. So, and honestly, like my grandma, she just is a worrier. She would have freaked out if she knew that, well, she ended up finding out, but if she knew that we had that there. So we were in the guest room. She takes, I unopen the tin foil, and I see this huge brownie. And let me say this, Jamie wasn't used to edibles at this time. She had used other ways. So she didn't know how much we were supposed to take. And I fully, just let her guide me and make the calls for this because I knew nothing. So she gives me the half. I eat the half. She eats the half. We're both sitting on the bed. And we're getting excited. We're getting pumped. Obviously this was too much, but we both did not know. So we sit down, and I remember we put on YouTube videos to watch while high, like the trippy ones. And we're just sitting there, and I remember I could tell when it was hitting for Jamie because obviously she was just acting a bit different, more giggly. She was saying the videos were tripping her out, and I was like, I'm not feeling anything. Is this normal? So I remember I took my phone, and I looked at my pupils through the phone, and they were huge. So I'm like, why am I not feeling anything if my pupils are ginormous and my eyes are red? I don't really know, time frame wise, but I do know it was a while before it hit me all at once. I like to say this. It felt like a train rams me in the head, and in my head did a full 360. The first thing I remember is I was having blanks in my consciousness. So if you were flipping through a movie, 30 seconds, forward, there's not darkness or anything. You just skip. That's how it was for me. I remember looking at the computer, and then I would come to, and I would be sitting on the bed looking at the window. And obviously that scared me. I'm like, I don't remember how I got from A to B, and I don't remember what happened between then. But Jamie's looking at me scared, and she's asking me, what is going on? What's wrong? So I'm like, oh gosh, there's something wrong with me. And let me say, I have anxiety disorder. I was less experienced with it then. Like, I didn't know how bad it was. That honestly was like the first time I really truly had a bad panic attack. I didn't know that my anxiety was making the experience even worse, which if I did know that, I feel like it wouldn't have been as bad. But I just basically ran into anxiety with open arms. I fully freaked out. I remember the first thing I thought was, I'm going through psychosis. Like, my brain and marijuana, they don't mix. And I'm going through full-blown psychosis. So I tell Jamie, I'm like, I'm going to my dad. And also, when I would say things, I was like, is that a thought? Or did I say it out loud? Well, I must have said it out loud because Jamie's like, please, 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 Kelsey, please, your family will hate me forever. They didn't hate her forever. I'm like, I have to go to my dad. Something's not right. So I like full on just shove her out of the way and run to my dad. And one of the memories I have is him sleeping peacefully, and he jumps up, like, with his eyes, like, this big around, and he's, like, freaking out. I probably looked deranged. I probably looked like I had rabies because I was freaking out. I was full on just, like, I thought, first of all, now knowing what derealization is, I was having that. And I was like, everything looks fake. I feel like I'm in a dream. Everything looks 2D. And then when my dad's talking to me, his voice comes first and then his mouth moves after. So I'm like, I have to be like in this weird like alternate universe where everything isn't working right. And this was the first time my brain ever experienced something not normal. So my anxiety was just, oh my gosh, through the roof. So he looks at me and he's like, what did you do? And I'm like, somehow I relayed it to him that I, ate the brownie, and I'm freaking out. And he's like, let's get you water. So he gets me water. What did I do with it? Pour it all over my head. Whole, like, big glass of water, just all over my head, ice water. And for some reason, maybe I thought that was going to help me. I don't know. I was looking for anything to help me. So he's like, let's go outside. That might be better. It honestly did feel a little bit better, but I was still heavily in a panic attack. I did feel doom still, that doom feeling. So I'm walking on the road, and I'm barefoot, he's not, and I'm like, usually that hurts, right? And I start like stomping my feet on the road, and I'm like, he's like, why are you doing that, Kelsey? And I'm like, I literally, this should hurt, Dad. I don't feel anything. I'm like, my nervous system is breaking down. Like, it's shutting down. Like, oh my gosh. We have to call 911 right now. And he's like, no, Kelsey, this is going to pass. And I was in denial. I did not think it was going to pass at all. And that, like, actually, a lot of this is funny, but it, like, has shown me parts of myself that, like, I've always never had faith things were going to pass, like, bad things. So that was, like, one of them. And he basically, like, we walked around outside. I remember that helped me a little bit. Like, the world still looked a little funky. Like, my derealization was still there, but it wasn't as bad as inside. But once we got inside, I laid down on the couch, and then I felt like I was free falling with the couch. Like, felt like I was, like, either melting or free falling. Like, I just know I had a feeling of, like, falling, okay? So then that, like, kicked my anxiety right back in. But then my body was like, girl, I'm going to help you. We're going to get this toxin out. I'm like, my stomach, and I run to the bathroom. I looked like a fire hydrant with the top blown off. I don't even know how I had that much vomit in my stomach, but somehow I literally vomited out all of my, like, body weight into that toilet. let me tell you, this was like 4 hours of pure panic attack and me being high. I ended up like falling back on the rug in the bathroom, and I fell asleep because my dad put on classical music on Pandora. And for some reason, I'm not a classical music listener, but it just like it soaked into my body, and it like soaked into my brain, and suddenly I think it like put me into like a meditation kind of like feeling, because just like had no fear and I fell asleep. So everything was good after that. Like after I woke up, a week goes by. I'm crossing into another subject. So that wasn't the end of my story, but there's still more, that the effects of that night, what it had on me later. So I'm talking about that now. So if you want to listen to that, you can listen to that. I got like LASIK surgery, so I know it was like a week and a half. Everything was good. Like I was already healed from the LASIK surgery. One night this is like 2017 still, I think. I'm reading a book. I remember this in detail. I was reading a book in my room, and I was very happy then. Like no anxiety or anything. I was very happy, which is weird, because of what happened. I got done with the book and I sit up and I'm very excited that I finished the book and like what the ending was. And all of a sudden, I look up from the book, look at the wall, derealization clicks like that. Like as if this was the derealization remote. It just clicked into my brain. I start freaking out. I'm like, there's no way I'm going back to this. I'm like, there's no way. And I remember I went to my grandma trying to like tell her what I'm feeling, but she didn't understand it. It's so hard to try to like introduce people to like what derealization even feels like. If you have it, you know. So I just remember I'm like, I'm gonna force myself to go to sleep and it'll be all gone when I wake up. It was still there when I woke up. I had a full-on mental breakdown from this for almost a year. Like full mental breakdown. At the time, a lot of psychiatrists didn't even know what derealization was in 2017, 2018. But I basically just went into a full-on like fight or flight mode, especially right in the beginning before I started seeing doctors. I never was on a med, like mental health med. I never was on that until this happened. So I was 19. I remember it was March. So no, it wasn't late 2017. It was March 25th, my sister's birthday. I was laying in my bed. I laid in my bed and I would close my eyes. I didn't even want to look because everything looked 2D, and I would just go back into a panic attack. So I didn't even get out of my room for my sister's birthday. I literally thought like I was going through psychosis, or like, you know, my life was over. I was just like full anxiety, just didn't know how bad my anxiety was, didn't know what this was. I just thought it was the worst of the worst. And that, you know, I typically was like that with bad things. I wasn't a very, like, I wish I had more hope. I wish I was a more hopeful person through things like that. But I think it taught me to be, actually. But it was hard. It was a hard lesson. I ended up going to psychiatrists. They didn't know what was going on with me. They just wanted to treat the symptoms, which was, they didn't know what derealization was, so they would give me meds for, oh, you have anxiety, oh, you have depression, So I was put on, benzos, I was put on antidepressants. Nothing was making the derealization go away. I even went to a doctor where you paid out of pocket because I ended up finding out he was the only one in Florida that knew what derealization was. Just like knew what it was. Didn't treat it, but no, I just wanted a psychiatrist to like know what I'm talking about. Just one other person to know what I'm talking about. So I went to him. He ended up not, it didn't go away. He ended up putting me on so many meds that I could not stay awake for more than an hour a day. I was on a moving boat and could not stay awake. The waves were literally huge, and I could not stay awake for that. And then I realized, I'm like, there's no quick fix to this. So I got off the meds, and I started doing a deep dive into what this feeling was. I just put my symptoms in, into my phone. And because I did that before, but I couldn't get very far because I'd start having panic attack again, because everything I read was like, there's no quick fix to this. Like, you can't make it just go away magically. But I basically became very knowledgeable on it. And I took it into my own hands. And I think that was like a big thing for me was, it was very lonely, but I was like, this either works or, this is my last resort because I don't want to be on a ton of those meds. I was literally put it on lithium, like at one point. Basically, you have to learn not to fear what is going on, because from what I've learned is it's like a mechanism that your brain has. Basically, your brain is checking out of like reality. It's a way of like, it's like numbing like your brain. Like your brain is just trying to numb itself so you don't feel things as harshly. But it's a pretty bad mechanism, honestly. Some people when I would read, some people said they liked it. A lot of people didn't. A lot of people said it was like terrible and like, ruined their life, etc. But basically, you have to learn that it's not there to hurt you, and you have to learn to not fear it, and you have to learn to not pay it any mind, which for me, trying to get rid of it, I was thinking, oh, I can do the whatever and I can get rid of it on the spot, but that's hyper focusing on it. And that's what I had a problem with because I have OCDs. I was hyper focusing on it, which only made it worse. Like I would wake up, check if I had derealization. That was a bad thing. Once time just passed and I got comfortable in the uncomfortableness of it, it went away. For a long time, I didn't focus on it, and then, it went away, and it was like I didn't even care because I didn't pay it any mind. I had it for a year and a half, but I still have moments of it, especially since me and the good Kusher, we're good, and I've just learned when I have it, I just don't fear it. It's a feeling I've known for a while. I don't pay it any mind, and then once the effects are over, it goes with it, it leaves. So yeah, if you're dealing with that, which I know from reading that a lot of people do, especially if you have trauma, especially if you have anxiety, a lot of people have their first time with weed and then they get derealization, depersonalization after. If you're going through it now, that's all I can say is just try and be comfortable through the uncomfortableness, and it's not going to happen right away. You just have to give yourself grace. It taught me a lot about myself. I still have that part of me where I'm not patient when it comes to bad things that are happening to me. I've had my health problems, and yeah, I beat myself up over it like I'm supposed to have control over when it goes away. It's not that simple. Some things that you want to happen take time and are out of your control, and that's just life. And you just have to try and find a middle ground and where you can still be happy. That's my story, and that's all. So yeah, bye.